Or today's class. So my name is Priska, as you already know, your backend tutor. So we quickly proceed to our today's class. Okay, so in our last video, that is, if you have watched our last video, if you have not, please ensure to do so. It will help you a lot to understand the structures of Laravel, right? Okay, so in our last video, we were able to create a rat in the web.php, which I already told you is located inside the rat folder, right? We created a rat. The URL name was user. Then we redirected this rat to the student controller. Now I told you that the student controller is usually located or found in the app folder, http folder, then controllers folder. Then inside the controllers folder, you can have all your controllers in there. So that is where we created our student controller inside this controllers folder. So now we have a method that we are pointing to, right? So if you open this student controller, okay, you will see the method we've created. Get user is also called a function. Get user what? Function. Then inside the function we are returning what? View. Inside the function we returned a view. Now we returned a view, and the view is normally the Laravel blade file. So if you come down to the Laravel blade file, which is usually located in the resources folder, views, resources, then there's a views folder. Open it. That's where we call it view. Then in here you will now see the user blade file, and we return some text. Hope you get it. So this is what we did in our last video, but this time around I want us to create a form for user to fill and submit to us, and we handle it in the back end. So now this is our blade file, right? We are returning a view. Where is the controller? We are returning a view user, and this is what is in our user blade file. What we are returning, this is it. Now we don't want this to be here. We want to create a folder, sorry, a form. So when we return this view, what you're going to be seeing is a form that users can fill. That is student details. That's what we are going to accept. Now in our last class, I taught you guys, or in most of my classes, how to make use of tools to ease some of the long coding and searching for issues or errors in your code, right? So I also let you know that as a developer, Google is your friend. You always Google. That is why when you see most of your tutors or tutors I see online doesn't hesitate to go to Google whenever it is necessary. Not because they don't know it, but because it is necessary for you to know it. Okay, so now we are going to be using ChatGPT in this time around. Okay, so let's go to ChatGPT. Okay, it's already opened, and I've already asked the question. I said, design a form that accepts student details for me using Laravel blade file. And this is exactly what it designed for me, right? And I think this is okay. I think this is fine. I mean, so even the HTML default structure is already there, the doc type. So we are going to copy it, then come back to our code and highlight all of this, take it out and replace it with this form. So in our case, we do not need any JavaScript. So know that when you are importing or trying to use a JavaScript file in your blade, you import it with scripts. Just like Bootstrap, HTML, sorry, CSX, you make use of link, right? So for JavaScript, you use script, which is what they did here. Add any required JavaScript here, and we are not needing it in our case. So I'm commenting it out. Let's scroll and see if they added the CSS, because okay, they also added the CSS. We also do not need it. We are not using any CSS file here. I mean, we do not style any CSS here, right? I just want just a pair or a normal form. Okay, so this seems okay. Okay, so now let's start our server as usual and run our user routes and see the kind of view we have. So php artisan serve. Okay, so our server is started. Copy it or just click on it, it takes you to the browser. Okay, so we're gonna paste it. Sorry, why is it not okay? It's loading actually. My network is terrible and I'm very far from my router. Okay, so so okay, it's opened. Now this is our normal file that you're seeing. Let's do a slash to the route we created. We created a route called user. Remember that the user is the URL. I hope you can hear me clearly. So slash user, that is the name of our route that we created. Okay, so it's saying route student dot. Okay, in the form they added a route in there which we have not even created, so we are going to take it out. We will take out what they added here and put hash or even leave it bare, right? So we go back, we refresh. Okay, so this is what they designed for us, a bare form, no styling, nothing. So in this case I'm not gonna be styling it either, right? So maybe in your task I will give you a task to style your form, just like in our core PHP. Okay, so to make our video shorter and not too long. Okay, so we are not, this is what we think looks okay in most of your classes. Okay, let me give this correction. In most of your tasks that you guys did where I say them accept details from user using a form, right? Most of you have where you to put date. You are allowing a string. You do not even make the type of the input date. You made it a test that somebody will just come and put in a test in a date. Where there is phone number, somebody will just come and put in a test instead of making the, see this one now, I'm even typing test. The type should be number. Let's go back. The type for phone number should be number. It should be number. So you can't type a number, I mean a test in there. So here now I can't type a test. That is better. Email, the type of email should be email as well. So I should, in case I forget to add the normal at Gmail stuff extension, it will remind me that this is not a valid email address. That way you don't have some minor issues in your code. Let's go back and check for email. Okay, the type is email. I mean, I think this is okay for now. So now that we already have our form set up, so user can actually do what? Fill this form and click on the submit button. Now before a user can fill this form and click on submit button, we have to get it when they click on submit button. So that means we have to do some things on our own end, right? That is back end. So let's go back. First of all, once they click on submit, right, it takes them, once they click on submit, it will be taking them to any route we mentioned in this action. You get, just like your core PHP, just that the difference here is how you put in the route or how you write the route. Everything is the same. So let's go back to our routes. Now we're going to create a post route. Do you know why? Because this time around we are accepting something from the user. So let's create a post route, and it is going to be a name route, right? Route, call it, as I told you, is a post request because you are accepting something from the user, and the URL name should be create, or should we name it save? No, let's just leave it like that. Then call the students, remember to put a square bracket, the student controller, so okay, it's already giving me what I need. So when I say name route, after writing your route, at the end of it put it as a name. Okay, so let's proceed. I will give it create student. The name can be the same as the URL name. This is the URL name. The name of this name can be the same, right? So it's all the same thing. So now you go ahead, we've created our route. So this name route is what we're going to be putting in this place. Now let me give you a core difference of it. If you come to this action, you want to put a route that once they click on submit, it takes them to that route, right? You first of all open your curly bracket. As you already know, in Blade 5, once you write anything that has to do with PHP syntax, you have to open a square bracket 2 or curly bracket 2. Okay, so now that you've opened it, The way to write it is URL, then the name, let's say create, this way. But do you realize that the difference between this route and this name route is this? If you are calling this URL, right, you use URL. But if you are calling this name route, you make use of route, not URL. So when I was starting in Laravel, I normally use this. But at a certain point, I think I was trying to update. I had thousands of errors. Not knowing that the reason for that error is because I was using URL. So somebody told me that in a form, you have to use route instead of URL. That's why there is a name route. I mean, you are accepting something from them. You make use of route. Except you want to append ID. Because in the name route, you can't append ID. But here, you can append ID by doing this. You see. But you can't do it here because it will give you an error. So that is the actual difference. You refer to this with URL, you refer to this with route. You get. So now we've put our route. We created it. Okay, the name of our route is not what I put there. It's create student. Go back. Put it as create students. Okay. I think this is okay. So my PHP have one. Should I say my system that if I don't do PHP and optimize or route catch, you will not see my new created routes. PHP and routes catch. Okay, this is to clear the cache of the routes. Okay, so let's go back. Let's refresh. Now we are no longer having that issue of the route is not defined, because the route we put in here is defined. So now once they click on submit after filling the necessary form, coming to this place, they are supposed to have an error, right? Once they click on submit for this create route, then we have a method create, but we have not created a method called create, so there should be an error for them. So let's go back. Fill this form, because if we don't, it will give us required. Fill it with whatever that comes to our head. Okay. Now let's click on submit. You can see there is an error. The method has not been created. So let's go back. Now let's copy this method. This must match with the name in here, with the name of the method you create in this controller. It must match. If not, you get an error. So public function, then paste your method name, come down. Now let's do, in PHP, if you want to echo out something, or maybe debugging your code to find out what is causing the error, does this thing have anything, does this variable have anything inside of it, is it empty, you make use of echo. Or I think you also make use of print_r in core PHP. But here in Laravel, you can easily make use of dd. That is die and dump. So let's dd hi. So the moment they find this create, the moment they click on this route, click on submit, brings them to this route, which is pointing to a controller, and the controller inside the controller is pointing to a create method. So now inside the controller there is a create method, and inside the create method it runs whatever that is inside there, which is dd hi. So let's go back, refresh. It shows hi. Okay, so let's come back. I mean, one of our aims has been achieved. So now they fill the form, right? We have to accept it from them. When we accept it, it's either we save in the database or we just display it to them. Okay, so this is what we are going to do. Should we save today or not? Let's do a saving. Let's save. So first of all, there's something called request. You must add it in your function, as long as you know you are coming here to use it. In your function or method, you add it there. Request, first one starts with a capital letter, then the second one is a variable. Once this is set, you must make sure it's imported here. Is illuminate HTTP request. If you use any other thing that is not HTTP request, you still get an error. Okay, so how to import a class? Let me show you. Okay, I think I did that in the last video. So now we are here, and what do we need? We have to create a model. As I told you, a model is what you use to access your table in the database, or yeah, in the database. So let's locate our model. Okay, the model we have here is for users, right? And what we are accepting is student details, right? So I want us to create a model for students. When we are working on authentication, that is registering user and logging in, we make use of that user model. So let's make a model, call it student. Model and migration, actually PHP anti make model. Let's call it student. Start with a capital letter. -m means create a migration as well at once. Students. So the migration, which is the table, will become students, plural of the students. Okay, so we've created a model. So the migration is found in the database folder, migration, and boom, here it is. The last one is what we just created. So what are the things we are accepting from these students? We are accepting their name, email, date of birth. Start with table. Now the table table. Is this string? Their name should be string now. So let's do it string. That is giving the type of the data. You can define it here, string. Instead of going to the PHP admin and manually creating all of these things, you can just do it in this migration, right? So string, the name should be name, is as good as full name now. The next one we are accepting from them is email, table. You always start it with a table. Our email is all, I normally use string, so you can see it's already completing for me. Table. The next one we are accepting for them is date of birth. So date time. I don't think. Okay, date time. I think this is a perfect date time, right? I should use only but dates. I don't know if date works. If I use a date time, it will add the time for me. Well, since we don't need much, let's just add the date time. Let's use date time. It should be date of birth. So let me, abbreviation of it should be DOB. Okay. Then the next thing we are accepting from them is phone number and address. The phone number, I normally use string. Reason is this: as long as I've done the validation I need in the front end, make sure I accept an integer from them. It doesn't matter how I save it. Though in some cases that it might be a requirement that you must save it as, or use the data type in the database as an integer. You can still do that, but I use string. That is for phone number. Phone number, so let's just call it phone. Then the next one is address and gender. Table. Address, we use string. Oh wow, I didn't copy that. Okay. The next thing was gender. Gender is also string. So gender. After gender, what next? Course and then year of study. Okay, we are really accepting a lot. Table, string, course. Then sorry, the next thing will be year of study, which is as well as string. Year. study or study study. Okay, so I think this is it. The all the things we are accepting from them: address, gender, course, year of study. I think we are good to go. mm, Now our table for student is set and our model is set. Let's migrate it. First of all, come back to this place, right? um what was our database name again? um Seems to be forgotten. Teaching. So there is teaching. You can see there is no student table here, so let's migrate it. PHP antisan migrate. Whatever command they are running in PHP starts with PHP antisan. Then to migrate, we do PHP antisan migrate. It has been migrated. Let's go back, refresh, come back. You can see the students here and all the tables are set for us. Okay, now let's go back. mm, so now that we have our model and our table, what next? Let's accept the details from the users and from the students and save it. Okay, so first of all, we call the model, we create an instance of the model. That's what it is called, instance of the model. So we call it students. So to create an instance of the model, you can already see it on my system. You use the word new, then the name of that model as a function. Now the class is not yet imported. If you right click on it, there is extension that is being installed on, I think, PHP IntelliFence, so that once it's installed in this VS Code, if you right click on your class that is not imported, you see import class, right? So it's imported. Now that we've created an instance of our model, the next thing is creating. Okay, there is two methods in creating or saving details in the user database, or saving details in the database or in the table. Let me show you the first method, which is what I learned with. Call on the instance of the model students, then the name of that column in the database. It must be the name of that the column in the database, equals to, then call the request. Request is the input you are getting from the users that is filling the form. The input you are getting from the form, that is request. No, you are able to use this request because you have declared it here. If not, you can use it, you get an error. Then there is a different method. You can use get, then the name of the input. Let's just use this. Or you can do this, request input, and still call it this way. But what I learned with is this: request, go back to your form. What was the name of the file? The name of the input is name. You can see it here, they give it a name. In all your input, you must give it a name. That's the only way you can access it. This is how I learned my own, but in a more matured way. Using get is better, right? So let's try this method. Okay, call the instance of the model again. Go back to your database or your table, copy the exact name of that column, exact name, paste it. Is equals to that. This is just like you creating a variable and assigning it to a value. You are just telling them that this variable name that is in that database is equals to this value that they are giving us from the form. That is basically what you are doing here. Nothing much, nothing less. I hope you get that. Now call your request get email. Let's confirm that the name here is email. Actually, okay, it's email. This one also dob. Let's go back, students. Go back to your table, confirm the column name, which is dob, equals to, call your request get dob. Now let's create another student. You are not creating, you are calling an instance of your model. Phone. It is equals to phone. Confirm that the name in the form is phone. Okay, is also phone. Then this one, the name here is address. Let's just copy it. Okay, the instance of the model address. Confirm that this address is also the same name you gave it in your column. Okay, it's the same thing. So let's copy the gender. Come back here. Okay, student requests. Let's confirm that the request input is also called gender. The name is gender. Okay, go back. There is the one called course after gender. Okay, so there is the last one but not the least, the student here. Okay. Okay, we don't actually know what it is given in the request, so let's go to the request and confirm the name. So the name here is Ye. Now that is what we are going to copy. For this course, let's confirm. I think it's the same spelling. If you make any mistake here, you will get an error, and at times the error you will not see it. So that is why once you are done putting it like this, the very simplest way is call these students instead of the model, save. Now you have successfully saved the details in your database in your table called students. Do you understand? Everything works fine. So let's test it with this method first of all. Go back, and after saving, I want us to return a message. Return. This is Laravel, so you don't just echo, you return. I actually love to return. Okay, let's do return it. When you are returning the message, let's return it back to this same place, right? Okay, so for us to come back to this same URL, we have to do what we call redirect back. Return redirects is a function in Laravel. Then add another function back in Laravel, then with the message you want. Now if you want to use a session, the first parameter you put there is the name of your session. Let's say it's success. I will show you that. Then second one will now be the message you want to give. Students details added. But if you don't want to return it with a session based on styling your form input or stuff like that, if you don't want to return it, you just return only a message. So let's just go back. I don't even think this message will display without a session, but let's go back and try our best. Now let's fill this form. Okay, okay. Okay, let's submit it. Now it has saved. It returned the message, but the message was not showing because we have to handle it in this view for you to see it. So let's go back. Everything was successfully saved. Now in terms of returning a message or handling the message part, is either we handle that today or in our next video. But let's go back and use another method to save these details. And there's something called validation. These are the most important thing you are supposed to always check. um the next method to save into the database. We are going to rewrite all of this. So aside this, there's no need of calling the instance of this. We have, first of all, should we assign it a variable or not? Let's assign it a variable. Let's call it students so that we can easily check. Now call the model students. Now call the function called create. Laravel function that they call create. There's something called also create or update. If you just don't want to create only, in a situation whereby if this thing is there, create. If it's not there, update it. You understand? You can also do create or update. But for now, we are learning of create. It's a function, but it accepts an array. You can see inside here. We can just let us not even have error, because our video is getting longer. It's too long. Okay, so this is how it's going to be in our array. As you already know, everything here we have to be single quote or double quote, as the case may be. Okay, just give me a minute. I'm trying to restructure it to make it look good. Okay. So okay, so this is it. Okay, I think okay. Then after this, the next one, array is not usually like this. There is never a semicolon in array. Is comma you use to separate it, and you use arrow, double arrow, not equals to in array. Okay. Okay, so the right signs has disappeared. With this, it's okay to create something else. So let's do if condition. If student, that means if it's actually created, right? Now you return this message, and else you return not added. Okay, so let's try to run again. Okay. With this, let's see, value must be less than or equals to 6. Okay. So we have an error. Add name to fillable property. Okay, so whenever you are using this method, every of your input must be added in the model. Every of these inputs that you are saving, go to the user model, student model, student model. Where are you? Everything here. As I told you before, I think I have mentioned our fillable to you before. Start with protected, then fillable, which is equals to an array, close it with a semicolon. Everything you want to be filled, everything that you want it to be fillable, like you want the users to input that is required, must be placed in here. Even at times, I don't know why it showed me this error. At times you will not know that this is the cause of your error, but you will not be able to save into database. You will make a whole lot of corrections and corrections and corrections, you will still not be able to save in the database. Maybe one column that you did not add here, no matter what you save, that one column will not go into database until your mind tell you to come here and put it in filler. But that is the only way to work without giving you an error. Okay, so this fillable, okay, all of this is not needed in fillable. Okay, so what is the problem? Why is the red sign still there? Okay, it's at. So let's come back. We've added everything here to fillable. So seems like it's saved. Let's go back and confirm. It was saved. So this is another method of saving details in your database. Now in our next class, I'm supposed to handle this. What we are going to be handling is validations of inputs. Because we validated this here, where is our blade file, by putting required, that is not enough. Here we are also going to validate it in our own, in our Laravel controller. Make sure that when this thing is missing, it returns a proper error, right? Even after you successfully impute it, it returns a proper error. That's what we call using validator. Then after that, we are also going to return a success message and then a right sign message, so that it was not successful or it was successful, right? So in our next class, we are going to handle that. Our video is long enough, so I believe in this class you're able to know how to return a view, accept details from the users and save in your database, create a migration and create a model, right? So thank you for your time and thank you for listening and joining this class. Thank you.